Learning English becomes easy when practiced daily in small steps because language learning depends more on regular exposure than on intense study sessions. When learners try to study too much at one time, they often feel overloaded and frustrated. This pressure can reduce interest and create fear of making mistakes. Small daily practice removes this burden and makes learning feel light and achievable. The mind stays relaxed, which helps learners absorb new words and sentence patterns more naturally. Daily practice in small amounts also supports better memory. When learners interact with English every day, the brain repeatedly sees and hears the language, which strengthens understanding over time. Learning 5 new words daily is more effective than memorizing 50 words once a week and then forgetting them. Repetition through small tasks allows information to move from short-term memory to long-term memory without stress. Small steps also help learners focus on progress rather than perfection. Instead of trying to speak fluently all at once, learners can aim to form simple sentences or understand basic conversations. Each small success builds confidence and encourages learners to continue. This confidence is important because fear and hesitation often stop people from practicing English. When tasks feel easy, learners are more willing to try and make mistakes. Practicing English daily in short periods also fits easily into busy lifestyles. Learners do not need special time or a quiet place to study. They can practice while listening to music, reading short texts, watching videos, or even thinking in English during daily activities. Because the effort is small, it becomes part of a routine rather than a burden. This routine keeps learners connected to the language every day. Over time, these small efforts create steady improvement. Learners may not notice immediate changes, but gradually, their listening becomes sharper, their vocabulary increases, and their sentence formation improves. English starts to feel familiar and comfortable instead of difficult. This method proves that learning a language is not about speed or pressure, but about patience, consistency, and simple daily practice that grows naturally with time. Listening to English regularly improves understanding and pronunciation because it trains the brain to recognize sounds, rhythms, and patterns of the language. When learners listen to English every day, they slowly become familiar with how words are spoken in real situations. This exposure helps them understand different accents, tones, and speeds of speech. At first, many learners struggle to catch words, but regular listening reduces this difficulty and makes spoken English clearer over time. Regular listening also helps learners develop correct pronunciation naturally. By hearing native or fluent speakers, learners understand how words are pronounced, where stress is placed, and how sentences flow. This is something that books alone cannot teach. When learners listen often, they begin to imitate these sounds unconsciously, which improves their own speaking skills. Even if they do not speak immediately, their mind is preparing the correct sound patterns. Listening to English daily also strengthens vocabulary learning. When learners hear words repeatedly in different contexts, they begin to understand their meaning without memorizing definitions. Words become connected to situations, emotions, and actions, making them easier to remember and use correctly. This contextual learning helps learners avoid common mistakes and improves overall comprehension. Another benefit of regular listening is increased confidence. Many learners fear conversations because they cannot understand fast or natural speech. Daily listening practice reduces this fear by making spoken English feel familiar. Learners start recognizing phrases instead of translating each word in their mind. This helps them respond faster and participate more comfortably in conversations. Listening practice is also easy to include in daily life. Learners can listen to English songs, podcasts, news, or videos while traveling, relaxing, or doing household tasks. Because listening does not require writing or speaking, it feels less tiring and more enjoyable. This makes learners more consistent and motivated. Over time, regular listening creates a strong foundation for all language skills. Understanding improves first, followed by better pronunciation, smoother speaking, and stronger communication skills. English stops sounding foreign and becomes a language that feels familiar and natural, helping learners use it with greater ease and confidence. Asterisk speaking without fear of mistakes builds confidence because mistakes are a natural and necessary part of learning a language. Many learners hesitate to speak English because they worry about being judged or this fear creates silence, and silence slows progress. When learners accept that mistakes are normal, they allow themselves to practice more freely. Each attempt, even with errors, helps the brain learn how the language works in real communication. When learners speak without fear, they gain practical experience that books and exercises cannot provide. Speaking forces the learner to think quickly, choose words, and form sentences. Even if the sentences are not perfect, this process strengthens fluency. Over time, learners begin to speak more smoothly because they are no longer stopping to worry about grammar or pronunciation. Confidence grows with every conversation, no matter how short or simple. Making mistakes also helps learners identify areas that need improvement. When a learner says something incorrectly and receives feedback, the correction becomes memorable. This kind of learning is stronger than silent study because it is connected to real communication. Fearless speaking turns mistakes into lessons rather than failures, which helps learners improve faster and more naturally. Speaking regularly without fear also changes a learner's mindset. Instead of focusing on perfection, learners focus on communication. The goal becomes sharing ideas rather than speaking flawless English. This shift reduces stress and makes conversations enjoyable. When learners feel relaxed, their speech becomes clearer and more natural. Confidence encourages them to speak more often, creating a positive learning cycle. Another important benefit is social connection. Speaking English without fear allows learners to interact with more people, ask questions, and express opinions. These interactions provide more exposure to real English and different speaking styles. The more learners speak, the more comfortable they become in different situations, such as classrooms, workplaces, or social gatherings. Over time, fearless speaking transforms English from a difficult subject into a useful skill. Confidence replaces hesitation, and learners begin to trust their ability to communicate. Even though mistakes may still happen, they no longer stop progress. Instead, they become stepping stones toward fluency and self-assurance in using English in everyday life. Writing a little every day helps improve grammar and vocabulary because it gives learners time to think carefully about how English sentences are formed. When learners write regularly, they become more aware of word order, tense usage, and sentence structure. Unlike speaking, writing allows learners to slow down and notice their mistakes. This careful process strengthens grammatical understanding and helps learners use correct forms more confidently over time. Daily writing also helps learners expand their vocabulary in a natural way. When learners try to express their thoughts on paper, they often realize they need new words. This motivates them to look up meanings and learn words that are useful for real situations. Writing about daily experiences, feelings, or simple topics makes vocabulary learning meaningful and practical. Words learned through writing are easier to remember because they are connected to personal expression. Writing every day also improves accuracy and clarity. As learners practice, they begin to form clearer sentences and avoid repeating the same mistakes. Regular writing helps learners recognize patterns in English grammar, such as how verbs change with tense or how articles are used. Over time, these patterns become familiar and learners start using them correctly without much effort. Another advantage of daily writing is increased confidence. Many learners feel nervous about using English, but writing privately allows them to practice without fear of immediate judgment. This safe environment encourages experimentation with new words and sentence structures. As learners see their improvement over time, their confidence grows, which positively affects their speaking and reading skills as well. Writing regularly also supports overall language development. It connects grammar, vocabulary, and thinking skills in one activity. Even short writing tasks, such as a few sentences or a small paragraph, create steady progress. Writing becomes a habit rather than a difficult task, making learning consistent and enjoyable over time. Daily writing builds a strong foundation in English. Learners develop better control over grammar, a richer vocabulary, and clearer expression of ideas. This steady practice turns writing into a powerful tool for mastering English and communicating effectively in both academic and everyday situations. Using English in daily life makes learning natural and enjoyable because it turns the language into a practical tool rather than a subject to memorize. When learners use English in real situations, such as talking to friends, reading signs, or thinking in English, the language becomes part of their routine. This natural exposure reduces fear and helps learners understand how English works in everyday communication. Daily use of English helps learners connect language with real experiences. When words and sentences are linked to actions, emotions, and situations, they become easier to remember. For example, using English to describe daily activities or express feelings helps learners understand meaning without translation. This practical connection strengthens understanding and improves fluency over time. Using English regularly also improves confidence. When learners practice English in simple daily situations, they realize that they can communicate even with limited vocabulary. This success encourages them to use English more often. Each small interaction builds confidence and reduces hesitation. Over time, learners stop worrying about perfection and focus more on communication. Another benefit of using English in daily life is improved fluency. Regular use helps learners think directly in English instead of translating from their native language. This makes speaking faster and more natural. Grammar and sentence structure begin to feel familiar because learners see and use them repeatedly in real contexts. Learning becomes automatic rather than forced. Daily use of English also keeps learners motivated. When English is used for entertainment, communication, or daily tasks, it feels interesting and meaningful. Watching videos, reading messages, or listening to songs in English makes learning enjoyable. Because the experience is positive, learners are more likely to continue practicing consistently over time. Using English daily creates steady improvement in all language skills. English becomes a comfortable part of life rather than a difficult challenge. This natural approach helps learners develop strong communication skills and enjoy the process of learning, making long-term success more achievable and rewarding. Consistency is more important than studying for long hours because language learning depends on regular practice rather than occasional effort. Many learners believe that spending many hours in one day will help them learn English faster, but this approach often leads to tiredness and loss of interest. When practice is inconsistent, learners forget what they have learned and must start again. Consistent daily practice, even for a short time, keeps the language fresh in the mind and supports steady progress. Regular practice helps build strong learning habits. When learners study English at the same time every day or use it regularly, the brain becomes used to the language. This habit reduces the need for extra motivation because learning becomes automatic. Just like exercising a little every day keeps the body healthy, practicing English daily keeps language skills active and growing. Small efforts repeated daily are more powerful than long study sessions done rarely. Consistency also improves memory and understanding. Repeated exposure to words, sentences, and sounds helps the brain store information more effectively. When learners practice regularly, they remember vocabulary and grammar rules more easily. In contrast, long study sessions followed by long breaks often cause forgetting. Consistent learning creates a smooth and continuous improvement that feels natural rather than forced. Another important benefit of consistency is reduced stress. Short daily practice feels manageable and less tiring, which keeps learners relaxed and focused. When learners are not overwhelmed, they enjoy the learning process more. Enjoyment increases motivation, and motivation encourages learners to continue. This positive cycle makes learning English a pleasant experience instead of a stressful task. Consistency also builds confidence over time. As learners notice small improvements every day, they begin to trust their ability to learn. This confidence encourages them to practice more and use English in real situations. Progress may seem slow at first, but regular effort always leads to lasting results. In the end, it is not how long you study in one day that matters, but how faithfully you return to learning every day. Because small, consistent steps quietly turn effort into fluency and dreams into reality.